Hello, I'm Donald Leggett, and welcome to the latest London South East CEO interview. I'm joined today by George Bennett, CEO at Rainbow Rare Earths, the only London-listed producer of rare earth metals. RBW have a market cap of around £70 million as of today, and have just announced interim results. Welcome, George.
Thank you for having me again, Donald.
No, it's a pleasure. You're joining us from South Africa today, I understand.
Correct, yeah.
Very good. The interims show a turnaround story here as you reduce losses and grow output from the Burundi Rare Earths trial mine. Is that a fair summary?
That is a fair summary. We've started improving our production over the course of last year, as can be seen, and coupled with improving pricing discounts as well as improving rare earth prices, we are reducing our loss.
So, and the reason you're reducing your loss, it's investment in machinery, it's a more sophisticated way of extraction. Tell us all.
Yeah, so we've gone to a more mechanized extraction or mining method in Burundi compared to when I first started with Rainbow. And this has led to improving production profiles slowly but surely. And coupled with that, this month we received the delivery of a new excavator and 3 new 25-ton dump trucks to support that excavator, which will lead to further increases in production starting next month in April. And we anticipate that we'll be break-even and cash flow positive in the next quarter, continuing strongly till the end of the year.
Oh, that's terrific news. Well, that's very good. I was going to say what comes next at Gokara, and in essence, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you could give us production targets and some sense of the plans to grow the output, how are you going to extract more NdPr from Burundi?
Well, basically, as I said, we're doing some improvements to the processing plant as well at Kabezi. We spent the capital amount needed for these improvements. We'll improve our recoveries and improve our throughput through the pilot plant. Bearing in mind, this is just a pilot plant operation at this stage, but our production target by the end of the year is we are targeting somewhere between 180 and 200 tons per month of rare earth concentrate, which will be a nice increase of NdPr production as well. We produce currently one of the highest grade concentrates in the world, running at about 54 to 56% TREO, that's total rare earth oxides.
Okay, and what ambitions do you ultimately have for the mine? Paint a picture for where you want to be.
Yeah, so ultimately, as I said, as our exploration and our trial mining is proving this resource, we need to drill the resource next year. Our inferred target that we came out with last year, we need to drill these inferred target, well, not these inferred targets, these exploration targets, I should add, into the inferred category and prove that we've got enough resource for me to target 10,000 tons of production per annum of rare earth concentrate, which will be a tenfold increase on where we are currently looking to be from starting next month.
Is that not a very ambitious target though, George?
No, not really. It's still a very small plant in terms of mining. And bearing in mind, I've got experience with building some very large mines in Africa, and this is still small by sort of normal mine standards.
You're a very canny man, George. You're just taking all this in your stride.
Thank you.
Okay, NdPr gets used in magnets for wind turbines. So what's the expected demand for NdPr, given that 80% is currently mined in China, and they're talking, well, certainly the FTs are reporting that China's talking about reducing its exports of NdPr.
Correct. At the moment, the Chinese recognize that they will probably be able to consume all the NdPr they're producing at the moment internally. And this has led to the market being concerned about supply out of China and also realizing that they need independent supply chain outside of China. Rainbow is one such company that can provide independent supply chain outside of China of these 2 key elements that go into permanent magnets. Now, permanent magnets are needed for all the electric vehicles production that's forecast to be increasing dramatically, as well as offshore wind turbines. And the forecast demand growth in neodymium and praseodymium for permanent magnets is due to go for circa 48,000 tons per annum currently to sort of north of 150,000 tons per annum of demand, and that's over the next 9 years. So very, very strong sort of forecast demand growth profile for NdPr needed in permanent magnets.
So you're pretty sure that whatever you extract, you will have find a willing buyer?
There definitely is far more demand than supply right now. And we've seen this price inflection point start in December 2020, which is actually, for once, the forecasters got right. And we saw neodymium praseodymium oxide start increasing in value from circa $50,000 a ton to where it sits currently at $88,000 a ton some 3 months later.
Okay, let me take you from Burundi to South Africa, to Phalaborwa. 3 or 4 months ago we talked, and since then I see you've announced a co-development agreement. You've partnered with someone to develop Phalaborwa. So talk us through that deal, and what do Bosvelt phosphates actually bring to the deal?
Well, Bosvelt phosphates is a game changer for Rainbow. Basically, we've secured the rights to, in the form of an earn-in agreement, to control 70% of a JV, and we will be reprocessing 35 million tons of situated in 2 gypsum stacks at Phalaborwa. Now, the significance of these gypsum stacks is that they were created by Phoscor, the government mining company, mining hard rock phosphate next door, which had trace elements of rare earths in them, in the hard rock deposit. This hard rock was concentrated through a flotation process by Phoscor and then pumped as a concentrate slurry next door to Sasol, the industrial conglomerate in South Africa. And Sasol used this phosphate as a feed for their phosphoric acid production, which was required for the fertilizer industry. In the production of phosphoric acid, there was a residue created called gypsum. This gypsum residue also went through 3 stages before it was deposited as a waste residue onto the 2 gypsum stacks that we currently have at Phalaborwa. And these gypsum stacks, which total 35 million tons, now have an average grade of rare earth elements currently running at about 0.5%. Now, this 0.5% doesn't sound very significant, but when you compare this acid to what they mine in China and they mine what is known as ionic clay deposits. And ionic clay deposits are typically much lower grade. So if you look at the ionic clay deposits in Uganda, there's one in Madagascar that's in the public domain, and what we know about the Chinese ionic clays, all of these deposits grade 0.03 to 0.08% TREO. So at 0.5% TREO, we are roughly 10 times higher grade. So that's the first significant point. The second point is the neodymium praseodymium makeup of the rare earth basket at Phalaborwa is currently sitting at between 29 and 30% of the basket. This is one of the highest grade neodymium praseodymium percentages I've seen of any basket of any project in the world. So it makes it definitely one of the highest neodymium praseodymium baskets in the world. Thirdly, Sasol developed a pilot plant that successfully extracted 3 tons of rare earths from the gypsum at Phalaborwa. So I know the project's been significantly de-risked, and they successfully, as I mentioned, produced 3 tons of carbonate. And that's another key point. Sasol were able to go directly to a rare earth carbonate, which is already downstream from a concentrate. So they've already done the first stream of beneficiation in the rare earth supply chain. And what's significant about this is that normally when you mine a rare earth deposit, you first of all have to produce a concentrate, as we were doing in Burundi. Then you go downstream and you beneficiate to produce either rare earth oxide or rare earth carbonate. And Sasol were able to go directly to a rare earth carbonate because your material in the gypsum stacks is known as cracked already. And what that means is that the gypsum's already in the chemical form. So all your capex and your opex associated with, first of all, concentrating your rare earths and then cracking it has been done for you already by the process over the last 50 years that's taken place. So we sit in a very unique position, which means that that part of your flow sheet, your OPEX and your CAPEX that sits in that part of your flow sheet has been taken out. And I believe that Phalaborwa will be a very, very low capital intensity project and a very, very low OPEX for those very reasons. Another thing at Phalaborwa that's a game changer is that all the associated infrastructure with the original phosphoric acid plant, which is in care and maintenance at the moment, has been mothballed for the last 7 years, has been made available to Rainbow in this joint venture agreement. So that infrastructure would normally represent about 20% of your capital cost of a project. We don't have to incur that cost. we would have to incur some cost to refurbish it, but we've got at least a 15% cost saving on our capital number. So for this reason, I believe the capital costs of this project are going to be significantly lower than any other capital project out there being under development around the world. And also significantly, once we produce this rare earth carbonate at Phalaborwa, we're planning to treat 2.2 million tons per annum, so roughly a 17-year project life, and we will produce neodymium praseodymium metal in the oxide equivalent of about 2,900 tons, representing about $200 million of revenue from Phalaborwa per annum at current pricing, which we expect to continue rising strongly as demand continues. Also significantly at Phalaborwa, which I never realized when we did the deal, was that we have a very, very good terbium and a dysprosium credit, which will add circa another $50 million of revenue to the project. So this is a very, very significant project for Rainbow. It will make us one of the global leaders in neodymium praseodymium production.
So let's just be absolutely clear about it. Bosvelt 30%, you 70%. What do they bring though? Do they bring expertise? Do they bring, those different,
they bring the resource, which is all above the ground, and they bring the associated infrastructure.
They own the gypsum stacks.
They're in the gypsum stack, so that's a big resource sitting right there. So they bring in that resource plus all the infrastructure with the mothballed phosphoric acid plant. That's laboratories, workshops, machine shops, administration offices, 2 rail sidings that are currently operating at that site, a high voltage switchyard for grid power, and we sit in the middle of a mining town. So all your mining skills required to operate this process plant are available in town on our doorstep, as well as.
And will the funding be split 70-30?
Rainbow will fund the project completely. But in terms of the value of the resource and in terms of the value of that Bosvelt's bringing to the project, we're very happy to do a deal like this, I can assure you.
No, I'm getting it. It sounds fantastic. And how much capital spend do you expect to spend in the next year or two to kickstart this whole thing?
I cannot, we don't have a feasibility study done yet, but I am embarking on a preliminary economic assessment, PEA, which will be done by July this year. But just using logic, A, we've got 15% to 20% of the infrastructure already in place, free of charge. B, a whole portion of your flow sheet, in other words, the capex and opex associated with producing a rare earth concentrate and then cracking it has all been taken care of. So that cuts a huge part of any process flow sheet out for any rare earth development project. The fact that that's taken out, just logically, this is a low capital intensity project compared to any other earth project out there in the world. I do have a number in my head, but I don't want to make a public announcement on it until I've got a PEA study to back me up. But I can tell you now, my number will be very close to what the study shows.
So it's a low-cost, high-margin project, as they talk about.
Very much so. That's my firm belief, and I do have experience in this area, so I'm pretty confident to be stating that to you on TV.
Fantastic. Now we're talking about, this is an interim results interview. So if I were to ask you, when do you expect the overall Rainbow business to be break even? Can you give me that projection?
Yeah, the next quarter will be break even.
Across the entire thing?
Across the entire Burundi operation, yes. That's including the underground exploration team. And by year end, we will be strongly cash flow positive at current pricing.
Fantastic. Final question, you'll be delighted to hear. What are the big milestones you hope to hit in the next year?
Well, we will be releasing a JORC resource statement on the Phalaborwa asset very soon. We've released our assay results, which confirm the initial metallurgical results that were released to me by Sasol. So we are in line with what Sasol tested at the site. We will be releasing a PEA on the Phalaborwa project hopefully by July this year. And by the end of this year, I'll be releasing a pre-feasibility study on the Phalaborwa asset. I might add that our resource statement, the work to release a JORC statement and to produce a PEA at Phalaborwa is currently funded by the current Treasury, which is significant. And also by the end of the year, we will have done we'll have the new fleet at Gokara, plus we'll have all the plant upgrades and the optimization of the pilot plant in place. That's also funded out of the current Treasury. So I'm very, very pleased to announce that.
George, that was a fantastic update. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It's really good to have you talking through the interims and putting some meat in the bone for us. Please do follow us on Twitter. That's @London Southeast. Likewise, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and get more interesting interviews like this one. Thank you for watching and stay safe.